Lieutenant Loverlady.
Jaeyun, man, what an interesting legend to cover at a time like this. We can cover the basics with Jaeyun that most people pretty much know already, like how he was the first Greatsword legend at the time, and how he absolutely ruined BCX 2020 with how interesting Greatsword was at the time. Okay, maybe that one isn't basic knowledge, but Jaeyun's an extremely iconic legend. Back when Onyx had just dropped, the game was pretty much entering a dark age for me, until Battle Pass Season 1 dropped, just got Diamond with Queen Eye for the first time, and of course we'd see the beautiful monstrosity that's Jaeyun. A lot of people hate him, but I love this goofball. I'd be dared to say he's an idol of the game like Bodvar or Mordex is. Unlike the first time I did a Jaeyun analysis, he didn't have as much of a presence on the game as he does now. Does he still hold that title of low A tier for me, or has he gone up or down? Spoiler alert, it's up. We'll dive into that when the time comes. Before we hop into the signatures, join the Discord server. We're about to hit April, so there's going to be some sick content rising up throughout the month. But back to the analysis. For Jaeyun, I wouldn't quite say it's his signatures that make him broken by any means, but there's a few of them that stick out in weird ways. Greatsword and Sig is his best Greatsword Sig for its simplicity. The other two can be a bit weird, but there's no BS with this one. It's super satisfying to throw into Greatsword strings if you utilize it correctly, which it can be a little finicky, but with the right reads, it's pretty solid. It doesn't do the most or least damage, but actually has the least force, just about for how much more straightforward it is. A very solid one. I wouldn't buff or nerf it myself. Greatsword Side Sig is a wicked one to mess around with. With the two versions it has, I'd say the grounded version is better, purely for having more damage and force than the aerial version. Although there's some really nasty KOs you can get with the aerial version if you set it up correctly. It's super fun to use, and I find a whole lot more success in this signature when using it gravity canceled coming on stage. Then we have Greatsword Down Sig, the one I would call the worst technically, but it isn't bad by any means. While it technically has the least force, it kills earlier than Insig, although it actually sports the least amount of damage for both versions. It's the hardest to use out of the bunch for sure, at least for me, but I would hope everyone else agrees on this one. Not that it matters that much anyways, I don't think anyone's going out of their way to call Jaeyun's Greatsword Down Sig the most broken signature in the game. I actually don't think any of his Greatsword signatures need to be adjusted. They're pretty risky to go for, but equally rewarding in relation to that level of risk. Jaeyun's sword game is a bit more tame, but we'll point out the odd one out when we get there. Sword and Sig goes a good way upwards, and a lot of the time will be the least damaging signature, considering you don't get every single damage hit in. The force on all these signatures are vaguely the same, so I won't spend too much time talking about those, but all of them are not that high to begin with. That's completely fair too, because Jaeyun's sword Sigs are pretty quick. If you aren't careful enough, it's easy to get hit by a whole lot of them. Insig feels perfect for getting that kill above you that isn't quite with recovery or whatever attack you're using to kill on sword. It just sets up in such a nice way. Sword Side Sig. Yep, that's the one I was talking about. This Sig, nerf after nerf, I feel has always remained on top when it comes to playing Jaeyun. It's one of those signatures that no matter how much you nerf it or buff Jaeyun's other signatures, it'll always come back or remain on top. Although I absolutely wouldn't compare it to a lot of the other Legends' super strong signatures. Looking at you, Wushang. So if they did nerf it, by all means, I'm for it, but who knows how they should go about that. Going from best to worst, we have Sword Down Sig. This one I bet I said was better than Nash's Spear Down Sig at the time, which honestly I don't think much anymore. This one, while technically having the most force, it isn't by a lot. The step back can be a bit confusing on how you'll directly hit this one. A lot of the step back signatures in this game just aren't that great, but Jaeyun's is pretty low down there. I really wouldn't mind if they give this one a bit more damage or force, because right now it just feels worthless to go for. Overall, either of Jaeyun's weapons work. If you ask a sword main, the sword is scarier, but a Greatsword main will absolutely body anyone in front of them, especially when it's Jaeyun. Since the last analysis, Jaeyun's gotten 3 new skins. I would have expected more out of the most popular Greatsword legend, but fuck it, we ball. Let's go through them. God tier has Handbox Jaeyun exclusively. I don't know what it is about this one, it just reminds me a bunch of The Messenger and I love that game. Call me biased, but it's his best one. Pretty good tier has Default Death Jester, Gilded Glory, Snowdrift, Luminous Paladin tier 2, and 3. All are fantastic skins with their own unique themes, my favorite being Luminous tier 2 for simplicity's sake. Death Jester is the considered edgy launch skin as well. Lastly, in mid-tier, we have Hwoarang Jaeyun, Luminous Paladin Tier 1, and Negan. I've never felt too big on any of these skins, except maybe Hwoarang when it first came out. While none of them stick out too much, there's nothing specifically bad about them. Although I know there's some Negan enjoyers out there. Overall, a good skin selection. Jaeyun skins are solid all around. Tier list-wise, of S, A, B, C, and D, I'd put Jaeyun in S tier. Although remember, there's still some legends that I consider S+ tier. So, while I do agree that Jaeyun's a pretty dang strong legend, I don't agree that he's the most powerful legend in the game. I hate using the term brainwashed, but I know some people are brainwashed into thinking Greatsword is the biggest bane of existence this game has ever seen. I'm not going to tell people what they can or can't find annoying or think is OP, but for me, Greatsword just isn't it. 3 of the Greatsword legends already don't feel like they're S+ tier, and the other one is very nichely viable. So when I hear Jaeyun's the most broken legend ever because he has Greatsword and then I see the other picks, then I don't know, I just don't pick up on it. I'm hopping a bit forward in the script here, but even though Jaeyun has a lot of good upsides about him, I just don't think it's enough to warrant him being any higher than S tier. Solid signatures besides the one we soloed out is broken, the sword which is super solid but not broken, and Greatsword which is just a conversation of its own. But let's get back on track and look at those stats. 6 strength, 5 dexterity, 5 defense, and 6 speed. It's a super balanced stat lineup which I really enjoy, and it's hard to argue that any other Greatsword stat lineup is better. Although this one could be better, like taking a stat out of dex and attack in favor for defense and speed, but that's what stances are for. Strength stance takes from dex, which seems like the most optimal, and then there's dex stance, which we gladly ignore. Defense 6 out of speed, which isn't bad but not quite optimal, and then there's speed stance, which takes out of attack. This leaves you at 5557, which low-key I think is actually the best stance. Having the higher speed for Greatsword means a lot. Really thinking about it myself makes Jaeyun look a lot better in my own eyes, but not enough to bump him up to S+ tier. As for his play rate, it fell down a good amount when Greatsword wasn't quite meta, more so around 2021 or 2022, but it's gone up since then. Granted, not by a whole lot, but 1.75% is technically higher than average. So good job, Jaeyun. Like I already said, he has a lot of good attributes, and I know a lot of people may love him for that, specifically House of Greatsword, and a lot of people likely hate him for that same reason, also known as anyone outside of House of Greatsword. But what are my personal opinions on Jaeyun? I love him a whole lot. At my rank, I can't hate him. He's never been a legend that's completely dominated games or completely controlled the queues like other legends have. If you know, you know. But what are your thoughts on the sellsword himself? Do you agree that he's way too strong, think he's actually underpowered, or somewhere in the middle ground? Let me know what your thoughts are on Jaeyun, because you know I'm always curious. Absolutely subscribe as well if you enjoyed this content, and you can always unsubscribe later if you'd like to. And until next time, y'all remember to keep on brawling.